Chapter 13. India, Rites of the Priest-Magicians. I am dedicated to achieving power and knowledge in this world and promotion in the other world. Rite of Invocation to the Asuvata Tree. While little comparative research into the fundamentals of Eastern and Western occult law has been carried out by dispassionate scholars, certain principles important to this study have been established. Perhaps the most startling of them is the strange similarity between the ancient Greek school, the rites of the Jewish Kabbalists, and the arcane disciplines of Vedic India. Stemming from a mystical approach to wonder-working attained through magic, all these schools embraced in common purification rites, ceremonial dress, incantation, and asceticism. The sanctity of a divine name, whose very utterance was reserved for special occasions, and 3 degrees of initiation form another cornerstone of their occult practice. What are the Indian schools of magic, and how do they achieve their aims? In the first place, India, like any other country, abounds with charlatans whose main object in life is the extraction of a mere livelihood through sleight of hand or confidence tricks, some of them ingenious in the extreme. But a very large section of the population subscribes in some degree to belief in, if not actual practice of, magic. Those whose whole-time occupation is the study and attempted use of occult science, such as the sadhus and fakirs, prepare themselves by one of the strictest and most austere disciplines recorded in human history. In the same way, their miracles, which I have myself seen and attempted to test as scientifically as possible, seem to exceed in scope almost everything else. Briefly, Hindu occult science rests upon the belief that power over anything and everything on earth may be obtained by means of benign spirits. As with the Chinese, such beings may be the souls of the departed, or simply disembodied entities under whose supervision come the laws of nature. Should, for example, it be desired to interfere with the law of gravity, the spirit guarding that law must be invoked and beseeched for help. This type of experiment is considered among the most elementary. So startling are the results obtained by these sadhus that I am almost driven to the conclusion that there may be some natural law which is as yet undiscovered in the West, which enables seeming miracles to be performed by those who have attuned their minds to it. Here is a case. I induced a Hindu magician of considerable importance to demonstrate certain tricks to me. He came one evening to my bungalow, dressed in a small loincloth and carrying nothing but a small 7-ringed stick, the badge or wand of Hindu occultists. I made several tests. First, having made sure that there was no confederate or apparatus present, I asked him if he would make a chair rise from the ground and hover in space. Knitting his brows in deep concentration, he closed his eyes and extended both hands towards the largest chair on the veranda. In 10 seconds, timed with a stopwatch, the chair seemed to rise into the air and, turning slightly, actually hover in space about 5 feet up. I approached it and pulled on the legs. It descended to the floor, but as soon as I let it go, it sailed upwards again. I asked the man if I could myself be carried up with the chair. He nodded his head. Pulling it down again, the thing seemed to have a life of its own by now. I sat upon the seat and rose into the air on it. Convinced that some sort of hypnosis was behind this, I got him to make all the furniture in the place rise. Then I asked him to bring flowers from a nearby garden, which all appeared. I had no flashlight camera, or this would have been an opportunity to test the matter once and for all. Yet I could not believe that hypnosis as we know it was behind the affair. In the first place, the induction of the hypnotic state must have been amazingly rapid. Secondly, even while the phenomena were being produced, I could not bring myself to believe that they were genuine. I seemed in no way en rapport with the magician. for I was easily able to refer to my prearranged list of phenomena and ask him to produce them for me. But what finally disposed of my suspicion that hypnosis, as we know it, might have been used was this. I asked the Hindu to describe to me the contents of the next 2 letters that I should receive, and he did so correctly. Next, I asked him to bring me immediately a rifle that I knew belonged to a neighbour, and to be in the next house about 5 miles away. And the gun appeared. The following morning, while I was having breakfast, the owner of the rifle came to collect it. At the time, I was almost too confused to think. He claimed that he had dreamed the previous night that I had borrowed it. 2 years later, in England, by which time the hypnosis must surely have worn off, we again compared notes, and my friend agreed that this event had actually taken place. What was I to think? The magician never asked for any payment or reward, and I never gave him any. He came, as he said, to demonstrate the powers that come to a man who genuinely follows the path of virtue. If this is hypnosis, it surely is of a very high order, incorporating some sort of hypnosis at a distance, telepathy, inducing dreams, hypnosis in 10 seconds of a stranger, and some foreknowledge of what will be contained in a letter. The reader will notice that there seem here to be 3 types of magical phenomena operating. It is possible that there was a form of snap hypnosis, and that this could be induced for a matter of seconds or minutes at the operator's will. In between times, that is, when released by the magician, one would feel quite normal, as I did. Secondly, the prevision as to the content of the letters. This is difficult to account for, but it is not an unknown faculty, just, I suspect, an unrecognized one. Then there is the projection of matter problem, when the rifle was apparently conveyed over a distance under mysterious circumstances and by an unknown power. It is of additional interest that the owner of the rifle seemed to be under the impression that I had borrowed it. This experience is representative of a large number of experiments which I and various other students of Indian occult law conducted during a period of some 3 months. Certain broad outlines of magical practice among the sadhus emerged from this study. In the first place, it seems possible, if not probable, that a number of Hindu magicians can in actual fact induce phenomena which could be classed as supernatural. What is the nature of their power? What is its source? In common with several Western investigators, I have been forced to the conclusion that we must conceive of the existence of some principle, whose harnessing becomes a possibility through the disciplines of the Indian priest-magicians. Occult it may be, since anything which is not understood may be termed occult. It is much more likely that there are forces, perhaps akin to magnetism or electricity, or forms of these, whose functions we do not as yet understand. After all, we know very little of the nature of electricity or magnetism even today. We know how to use these forces, and we know what they can do. Yet they were known for centuries before they were harnessed. What places this occult force in a slightly different category is the apparent fact of its use through mind control. On the other hand, it may well be that one day machines will be developed which can control this strange power or force. From personal observation of the trance-like condition of the practitioners, my own feeling is that the greatest barrier preventing the objective study of this power is the lack of scientists prepared to undergo the rigorous training necessary to become adepts. It is true that the sadhus claim that their power comes exclusively from spirits, that they within themselves possess no special abilities except that of concentration. At the same time, a man might believe fire to be a spirit and still be able to use it as he wished. This seems to point to the actual possibility of some principle or force whose nature is not fully understood, being employed by Hindu magicians. Whatever may be the truth underlying these phenomena, The following dissertation gives details of the initiation and discipline of the Brahmin priesthood, according to the magical treatise Agrusada. Rites and invocations of the magician according to the Agrusada. The first part of this secret work of Hindu occult science treats of the rites to be observed by the parents of a child from birth until it is old enough to receive the initial degree of novitiateship. The actual training in magical power does not, however, come until the third part of the work, the study of which commences at the age of about 20 years, when the young Brahmin leaves his guru or master and launches into what might be termed individual study. Carrying now the title of Grihasta, the young magician commences a severe life of rituals and taboos, of invocations and fasting, of prayer and self-denial. Fortunately for him, every detail of his future life is planned meticulously by the book, for any omission of even the smallest observance carries the inexorable penalty of delaying his spiritual development. Sleeping on the floor on a simple mat, he must rise before dawn. As soon as he stands up, he must speak the name of Vishnu, calling upon that deity for aid and blessing. Then follows the supreme formula in a low voice. Brahma, Vishnu, Siva, you and the spirit of the spirits of the seven orbs, I call upon you all, asking that the day should dawn. This is followed by the invocation of Brahma. Brahma, come into me, enter within me, O Brahma, tranquility and blessings are to me. Brahma is within me, I am at ease. Conjuration of Vishnu. This is said immediately after the prayer to Brahma. Lord, greatest of all, basis of all, and power behind all, Lord of the universe, initiator of all life, Thou hast instructed me, Thou hast commanded me, to rise and make my way in this, my everyday life. Then follows the period of contemplation. This is an hour devoted to thinking exclusively of good and the planning of kindness and pious acts to be achieved on that day. When the mind is thus settled and calm, say then the name of Vishnu 1,000 times. This brings the magician to his ritual ablutions, which are made with a copper or brass vessel, while the mind is concentrated upon the spirit of Vishnu. The washing over, he turns round 9 times slowly, repeating the names Brahma, Siva, Vishnu, then 9 times and again 3 times. The next part of the ritual is the invocation to the sun. Thou art the sun. Thou art the eye of Brahma, the eye of Vishnu, the eye of Siva, in the morning, at noon, and at night. More precious than anything else, thou art a jewel of jewels, priceless watcher over all, hanging in the sky. This is thy power, fertilizer of life, yardstick of time itself, of days, nights, weeks, years, seasons, all time. Of the planets, thou art the leader, the Most High, destroyer of darkness, power extending over uncounted millions of miles, golden chariot of the universe, accept my adoration. Rite of the Tree. The rites continue with a daily invocation to the tree. This is generally the type known as Asvatha, and the magician sits in its shade, repeating the following words. O thou Asvatha, king of jungles, representation of the spirits. In thy roots I see Brahma, thy trunk is Vishnu, thy branches are dedicated to Siva. This means that thou art within thyself the trinity of gods. I am myself dedicated to achieving power and knowledge in this world, and promotion in the other world. All who honour thee by circumambulations around thee will achieve these aims. Starting with the sacred number 7, The magician then revolves around the sacred fig tree in circumambulation in multiples of 7. He must do this at least 84 times. This concludes the tree ceremony, and is followed by the donning of clean garments, a further period of meditation and dedication to the sacrifice which the operator is about to perform. Sacrificial rites of the magician. The room, which has been specially set aside for the rite, or specially cleaned preparatory to it, is then darkened. A pitcher of water and a small bowl containing cooked rice are placed on a table, which acts as an altar. Above this hang a lamp burning incense, and a small quantity of yellow pigment, generally saffron or sandalwood. The operator then claps his hands or snaps his fingers before the doors and windows, sealing them against evil spirits. An imaginary circle is also drawn before the door. 2 small images, one of the magician, the other to house the sacrificial spirits on their appearance, are then made from mud and water and held momentarily over a flame. They thus comprise the elements of fire, earth, water, and air. Evocation of the Spirit. The magician seats himself on the floor in front of the altar where he has placed the figures. Crossing his legs, he spends a few minutes in reflection. With his right thumb, he closes his right nostril. The magic word yum is spoken aloud 16 times. At each repetition of the word, the invocant must concentrate upon the spirit of the Pitris. He must take strong inhalations through his left nostril, also imagining that his body is disintegrating, and that he is being left as a pure and disembodied spirit. When the 16 or more repetitions of the word are completed, he closes both nostrils with his thumb and index finger of his right hand. Holding his breath as long as possible, he intones the magical syllable room 6 times. Theoretically, he should have reached the stage when it is not necessary for him to breathe at all. In fact, I have been told by self-styled magicians that the spirits appear even if one is compelled to breathe. The next step is the pronouncing of the all-powerful word loom 32 times. Your soul will then leave the body. It will mingle with the Pitri spirit, and after a short space will return to the body. When you are again fully conscious, you will find that the invoked spirit has appeared and taken up its temporary abode in the clay figure prepared for it. Taking care to make no mistake in the ritual, the magician comes out of his trance, repeating thrice and yum 9 times. Looking into the smoke of the incense, the student invokes the spirit. O mighty spirit of the Pitris, O great and noble one, I have invoked thee and thou hast appeared. I have provided a body for thee, a body formed from my very own body. Art thou here? Come, manifest thyself in this smoke, partake of that which I have offered as a sacrifice for thee. The book goes on to tell how the shape of the spirit will appear in the smoke, and will take some of the rice offering. It will then bring any spirit that is desired, including those of ancestors. They will give advice and answer any questions put to them. When suitable replies on natural and supernatural things have been received, the magician puts out the light. The spirits, continues the book, will stay for a while, speaking to one another, and much wisdom may be gleaned from their conversation. When they have gone, the operator can relight his lamp and stand up. He will then remove the coverings from the doors and windows and inform the evil spirits who have been compelled to remain within the magical circles that they are free again. Only after this may he eat. After finishing his meal, the sage washes his hands, gargles 12 or more times, and eats 9 leaves of garden basil. It is necessary to perform after this some pious action. This usually takes the form of giving charity to the poor. The guru, or master, among the Hindu sadhus is supposed to have, through such observances as these, amazing and supreme powers. To him there is no god at all, for all the gods or spirits are under him. He gets his power from the one superior being. He can, by means of his voice alone, change the course of rivers, turn mountain ranges into gorges, produce hail, fire, rain, and storms. His power is in his stick, the stick with 7 rings or knots. Into a magical circle he commands all the evil spirits of the world by means of this stick. Even the stars are at his behest. The magical circle of the guru, which may be drawn on the sand or merely described in the air with his wand, is a double circle. Between the two are a succession of linked triangles. The strange and unfamiliar Hindu doctrine of Akasa, life spirit or spirit power, lies at the basis of all occult phenomena described or attempted by the Hindu school. Briefly, if it is possible to be brief about such a matter, Akasa means that force of which all spirits are a part. It is also the source of all power. There is, also the yogi's state, only one substance or power from which everything else derives. Natural laws such as gravity, or the life process of man or plant, are obedient to certain laws. These laws are not distinct and different phenomena. They are simply phases of the Akasa. A Hindu magician would contend that matter and energy are the same thing, just different aspects of Akasa, which is the principle of which they are both composed. Recent research has confirmed that belief. Akasa, in one state, causes animal life. In another, it determines the movement of the planets. One form or state of it can be transformed into another. Thus, to nullify the force of gravity is simply a matter of charging the object with a lighter form of Akasa. If you want to lift a load of 10 tons, it is necessary to change the type of Akasa which is present in the load. If the 10 tons is steel, you will have to divert the steel Akasa somewhere else. Modern science with the atomic theory admits that all matter is composed of the same prime material, electricity. But where this Oriental theory differs with Western science is when the Hindus claim that this prime material, Akasa, can be changed by means of the mind, not by mechanical methods. Very similar, incidentally, is the Arab philosophical argument about the transmutation of metals. Gold, held the Arab alchemists, is made only by the concentration of a suitably ripe mystical intellect. It could be made of anything, but making one metal out of another was simpler than making, say, gold out of wood.